So when you move to a new area or you're looking at moving to a new area and you have kids, one of the first things that you're going to do is look at a school system. And you may hop online, you may do some reviews, read some things here or there about what's going on, but typically, if you're smart, what you'll do is you'll reach out to another parent that already has a kid in said school system and go, hey, what do we need to know about the school system? The ins, the outs, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of those things. And today, or tonight, or this morning, whenever you're listening, we have the opportunity to do that for this brand new defensive system that Jim Knowles is bringing to Knoxville, Tennessee for the Tennessee Vols. Welcome to a special episode of the Rocky Top Rundown. My name is Alec. Not with me is Logan. He was not able to make this episode, which sucks for him because it's going to be awesome. But with me, I have a man who comes from Duke University, but before that was in Norco, California, where he was a first-team All-CIF safety at Norco High School before beginning a 5-year career with the Blue Devils. After battling through a season-ending shoulder injury as a freshman and earning a medical hardship waiver, he became one of the leaders of Duke's defense, appearing in 53 games with 19 starts and finished with 120 tackles, 14 and a half tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, an interception, forced fumble, and started the final 14 games of his career. Senior year in 2016 was his breakout year, leading the team with 12 tackles for loss while earning academic All-ACC honors, which I feel like that's a given coming from Duke. But, along the way, he played in some of the college football's biggest games and against some of the biggest names of the time, squaring off against Jameis Winston, Johnny Manziel, Lamar Jackson, and all of that during some of their best seasons, including Lamar's Heisman season. And so now, and more importantly than everything else I just said, he is a husband and a father to 3, and excited to have Mr. Corbin McCarthy join us. Corbin, how are you doing today?
Man, I don't think I could have asked for a better intro. It's probably did me a lot better than what I officially am, but I appreciate you. I'm good. I'm sitting, I think, a couple miles away from you. We just wrapped up some of our day jobs, so I'm thrilled to be here. Appreciate you having me on. Yeah, super excited. I did realize just as you were giving me that introduction that this is for Vols fans, not Duke fans. So okay. Apologies. I should swap out this polo here, but that's where I met Jim Knowles. So I guess we'll rock it today. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
So if you didn't know a little bit about Jim Knowles' history, I don't remember where he was before Duke, but his stops went Duke, OK State, and then Ohio State, then Penn State, and then Tennessee. And, I've said this before, I don't care who you are. You have a top defense in the country at a place like Duke, and that's not to diminish Duke, but when you're talking about resources and the offenses that were in the ACC at the time, you're talking about Clemson as it was starting to reach its peak, Jameis Winston at FSU, Lamar Jackson at Louisville, which I think Louisville was in the ACC by that point. Did y'all play Louisville in a bowl game, or was that regular season?
No, they were in the ACC. Yeah, we flew to Louisville and we played Lamar at his house.
So out of the 3, who was the hardest quarterback to play against with Jameis, Johnny, and Lamar?
It's the most frequent question I get. I hate the answer. I really do. Johnny Manziel to me was by far the best quarterback I ever played. I hate that answer because I'm just not a Manziel fan. Right. Just for reasons of my own. But I will say, Lamar Jackson was the most electric on the ground by far. I mean, the guy's ACLs are made out of rubber bands. It's unbelievable. We're seeing it in the NFL, right? So all kudos to him. But Johnny Football was Johnny Football for a reason, man. So I'd say him.
So are you surprised by the outcome of their NFL careers after you played them in college?
I am. I thought, yeah. I mean, I think most people were, right?
Yeah.
Honestly, with Lamar, again, this isn't a dig against the guy, but like we didn't really try to cover the pass when we played him in college. He was an unbelievable runner. It's pretty cool to watch him progress in the NFL and become a true passer and a dual threat. Yeah. But yeah, I think you're surprised once people listen to the Johnny Manziel documentary, you're a little less surprised, right? But was for sure surprised. Jameis was incredible in his own right. I mean, honestly, I think the stat is that on that Florida State team that year, like 20 guys were drafted in the first round or something insane like that. So, maybe it was him, maybe it was his team. You never know. But yeah, all of them are all of them are unbelievable football players. So, got to give credit.
No, for sure. So, can you explain to us, did Jim Knowles recruit you? Did you get to Duke and Jim Knowles was already there? Or, sorry, did you get to Duke and then Jim Knowles showed up? What was y'all's timelines like there?
Yeah, so I want to say Jim got there. It's funny, I've never called him Jim before, except for right then. I want to say Coach Knowles got
Coach
there.
Knowles.
Yeah, 2008-ish. I graduated high school in 2012. I played there till 2017 because my medical redshirt year. When I went on my official visit in December, I got to meet Knowles. He was actually the person who told me Coach Cutcliffe, so I was a part of the David Cutcliffe crew, was going to give me an offer. He looked at my father and kind of used it against me. He's like, hey, Coach Cutcliffe's going to give you an offer. You should accept it on the spot. 18-year-old kid having offers from the Pac-12 from California at the time, didn't want to accept the offer. My father said, it's Duke, you're going to Duke. And that was all she wrote. So it's a good story because my father forced me into it and I had the time of my life. But that is the truth, is I was actually told, you are committing. That's just the way that it goes. So,
right.
Yeah, it's fun to look back on now.
So with that, there's some Tennessee tie there. What was it like playing for David Cutcliffe? I know we're not here talking about that, but Tennessee fans will be interested in knowing what it was like to play for Coach Cutcliffe.
And you can't, how do you speak poorly about a man like that who's had such success? Like, the guy's been, he's a legend in his own right. I will say, the one interesting thing about playing for Cutcliffe in that day and age, you got to remember, bring it back to like 2015, 2016, modern football started to hit the scene. He definitely brought the old school vibe. Like, we were coached the way that a SEC school was coached, in my opinion, the way we practiced. He drew a lot of comparisons with Saban. So we did a lot of 2-a-days, 3-a-days, and the dead heat, right? So it was tough. And honestly, the Duke teams I played on were pretty good, probably because of it. But nothing but good things to say about the man. Great guy, great father, great coach, great mentor. Honestly, all the coaching staff those 5 years I was there, I would say fit in that bucket, and Knowles being certainly one of them.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's hop into the ins and outs of the defense. And so, well, before we get to that, one more thing about Knowles and Coach Knowles is, personality type. There's been a lot of conversation with Tennessee fans, mostly because Tennessee, since Heupel's been there, so 5 years, has been one of the highest penalized teams in the country. And there was conversation between fans, because, fans talk. The now current Auburn head coach was the OC, and the offense under him seemed to be under Alex. I just blanked on his name, but whatever. Under him, the offense was much more fine-tuned, and there was not as much head mistakes, things like that. Whereas on the defensive side, there seemed to be some different things that would pop up, and the penalties always seem to pop up at the worst times. Guys losing their minds, things like that. And so there was a conversation that under Alex Golish, that there was a bulldog on the coaching staff, and Tim Banks was not that as the DC, who was DC prior to Knowles and things like that. So what is the demeanor of Coach Knowles? Is he going to be that Cutcliffe type that is, down your throat every time you make a mistake, or even Patterson-like, which Knowles compared his defense to Patterson's defense, Gary Patterson, that is. And, how is he when it comes to mistakes, accountability, things like that? Because in his interviews, he seems like a pretty tame, calm guy. But what's he like on the sidelines in the locker room?
You gotta love media. It's different than a football field, man. Knowles is interesting. When I first joined Duke, it was a pivotal moment of the program, right? We went to our first bowl game in I think it was 25 years. And so there's a lot of pressure just to make the program successful. While I was there, we were ranked, I think, every year, right? So they came together with a lot of success, which is really great. But in the beginning, when there was a lot of pressure, I felt like, down your throat, he was earning his stripes, we were earning ours. But as years progressed, as you earned a little bit of respect from him, as he got more respect from people outside of the organization, I think his true demeanor is a player's coach.
Okay.
I haven't seen Knowles in a long time, but man, the guy's swag is so cool now. He's got a shaved bald head. I don't know if this podcast knows this, but Coach Knowles actually got married over the weekend.
Yeah, saw that.
really, really cool to see. I think he's got a lot more swagger now than he ever had.
Yeah.
He's like any defensive coordinator should, man. Like you're playing SEC football. He's going to rip you if you make a mistake. Absolutely demands excellence. Fun fact, I don't know. I mean, you can Google this pretty easily, but like Knowles went to Cornell. So he's an absolute like
Nerd.
brainiac,
Yeah.
mold with Duke. Yeah, he's a total nerd, which is great. Um, he worked on Wall Street for a little bit. I don't know if, people tuning in would know that as well. So like his natural tendencies are like, don't make stupid mistakes, like understand the schemes, understand where to be. That is a lot harder doing when you're running 4.3, 4.4 40s down your throat. Right. So, a little bit of give and take, but yeah, man, I would say to his core, players coach through and through, but he's not going to allow silly mistakes and blown coverages. Like it's just not in his DNA. So I think fans should rest assured, the people that walk out on that field are going to be people who could not only know the play calls, but be able to like teach it back to him. Like that's a core principle that he's always had.
So with that, a lot of the conversation has been, all right, Knowles' defense are really hard to pick up, things like that. So what makes it so difficult to pick up, and I think you can explain this better than I can, but we were talking before we started recording when Knowles compared his defense to a Gary Patterson defense. My mind immediately went like, oh, I understand what that means. Where Gary Patterson would have, in some ways, like not set, hey, corners, you're covering this receiver, safeties, you've got these guys, you're picking it. Sometimes you're in man, things like that. But it's more so you see this formation with this motion. This is your play. This is your coverage. So
Yeah.
what makes Knowles' defense so difficult to pick up in the first year?
Such a great question. I would say if I'm a fan, I'm tuning in and I didn't play, I would think like, well, you don't want it to be super hard to pick up. But if a defense isn't hard to pick up at some level, then the scheme probably isn't very robust. Right. And so I think there's one thing that Knowles has, which is, again, like guy's a brainiac. He's going to have a scheme that's built to perfection. We watched that play out in Ohio State very directly. We watched it play out in Penn State. We watched it play out at Duke, not to, give my alma mater a little bit of credit here. But I would say what makes it hard is some of the like specific positions. So when you run a 4-2-5, I specifically played the strike position, which is like a hybrid safety linebacker. In order to cover the pass.
You were the star position. So you were not one free, strong, or corner. You were for Tennessee fans, that's the star position. Just to align the terminology. So sorry to cut you off. Continue.
Oh, you're good, man. It's funny. I don't know. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can accept that we're going to change the name of my position, but I'll do it. Yeah. So the star position for Bulls fans, like again, supporting the pass ball, also having a run fit can be excruciatingly challenging, right? You're playing 10, sometimes 12 yards off the ball. You're playing outside of the box. Oftentimes where you're sitting in the field is either blowing your disguise or it's giving into a disguise. And so personally for me, like what I can speak to is my position. That's why it was so challenging, right? You got a slot receiver in the SEC running 4.3 40. You also got to run up and fit a run gap for a running back who's going to be drafted in the first round. So whoever plays that star position better be a dog for these Bulls fans. But I would say that what also makes it hard is that it's fast. So, and I don't know, I don't know how much is being shown in media, but you're not getting a play the second a play ends, right? You're waiting for oftentimes formations to set, for the offensive coordinator to give in a play. And so from this moment you get a play, the moment the ball snaps is often within seconds. So if you don't know that playbook like the back of your hand and you have to think, it's already too late. You know what I mean? And so oftentimes it's really just like how fast can you process formation? Can you process down in coverage? And then how great do you know the role? Those would be the things that I would say, man, amongst, I'm sure many other things. It's been, I think we were talking about this before we started, like 10, 11 years since I've played, but those to me were the hardest things for me to do personally and a lot of people I played with.
So it sounds like maybe Knowles' defense is not one where, like, when you are given a position, you need to stay in that position to fully understand it, maybe for the season or for a majority of the season. Or is that maybe just the star because there's so much going on for that star position?
I would say that his defense is completely centered around the back end of the defense, right? So like your safeties and your corners. I think when you're a D, I remember specifically D lineman, it was much less thought put into it, right? And so I think your D linemen and even your inside linebackers are not going to struggle with picking it up quickly. Alec, I think about now, like transfer culture. I could not imagine transferring and learning a new defense every year. That's like sheer insanity. So, do I think it'll be hard to pick up in the beginning? Sure. We play football year round now for a reason. So hopefully these guys are ready to rock from August, September time.
No, and that makes sense. And so with that, what
Yeah.
what level of the defense, if it's like, all right, we're gonna struggle, maybe be young, maybe be thin, is the best spot for that to be on the defensive line? Because I asked that because right now that might be Tennessee's thinnest position group on the defensive side of the ball.
I mean, I think if Knowles tunes into this, he's going to be like, you could never say defensive line, nor would any DC,
Right.
Yeah, I would say that like if you have sheer talent, like we're talking SEC, Tennessee recruits incredible talent. If you have someone who's young in their career, um, maybe they're still kind of earning their stripes. I do believe D line for his defense is probably where being young and a bit more junior would be best. Safeties are going to have experience. They're going to have to know the playbook inside and out. Like it's just going to take a different dog. That's how I like to use that phrase.
Right.
So safeties need to be stout. I also think that star position and your linebackers are going to play a key role. Um, I don't know if I'm giving you a good answer here, man. I'm
No, that's
searching, but
great.
I do think D line, like if you're gonna not understand the playbook and get thrown in, that's gonna be the easiest slot to fill in for right out of the gate.
So what? Yeah, no, that was a great answer, and I think there's so many different ways where Tennessee's linebacker room, where I was explaining this to you last night, it's loaded. You've
Uh,
got your top three tacklers returning. Well, I guess your top three linebackers all returned. One of them, Arian Carter, was a projected top round draft pick until he got double turf toe and missed a majority of, like, was in and out and not as productive in the second half of the season last year. So he comes back. He joins Knowles's top linebacker from Penn State last year, and that's your assumed two starting linebackers. Well, then from there, you only have, I believe, behind Carter, Spillman was your top tackler, and then T-Lander, who he's a coach's kid and was begging for the defensive playbook during bowl practice when Knowles was just watching. Like, it's like, hey man, you've got another guy acting as DC. Like, you need to go do that rather than worrying about what I'm going to give you. And then you've got two top five linebackers behind them in the next two classes. So you've got an incredible amount of talent in the linebacker room, and it's just going to be very interesting to see what Knowles chooses to do. Do you how much 3-3-5 did you guys run? Because that's a lot of conversation or in speculation when you have that much depth in the linebacker room, and you're thin at your edge/Leo position, and then generally young and or thin at defensive tackle and end. So it's like, well,
yeah,
maybe the remedy there is to put your best players on the field to go 3-3-5. How much did
yeah.
y'all do that while you were at Duke?
And my head initially goes to instead of running that 3-3-5. And again, I don't know. It's been again his defense may have changed a little bit since I've played 4-2-5, but we didn't play any 3-3-5. What I
Right.
will say is it was very common for us to have the same situation. So at Duke, we recruited for whatever reason, we recruited linebackers incredibly well. And so oftentimes we would take an end linebacker and bring them down on the line like a D end. So you think like a Micah Parsons back in the day in college, the way they would utilize him. So that's where my head goes. Like if you're light on a defensive end or even a D tackle, move some people over and get an extra linebacker in there versus having to play a 3-3. Knowles loves to blitz. Like I don't know if people know
Okay.
that. Knowles
That was a
loves to
question of mine.
he loves to rush. The star position will rush in on certain gaps. I can't name names of plays if just in case they're the same, but there's a few
Right.
plays that were my personal favorite. Our linebackers, like if your linebackers can rush the passer well, I think it fares you very, very well this year, just because that's kind of how his schemes have been programmed.
Which is encouraging to hear because there's a lot of times in the last couple years where, if the edges were not the ones getting home, the stunts that the defensive line would run freed up the linebackers to run downhill, like Arian Carter and T. Lander, Spillman. They all had relatively good sack numbers for being the linebackers in the defense, and so that's exciting for me to hear because there is a certain linebacker. His name's Jaden Perlotti, which when Logan listens to this is going to laugh, but dude is lightning fast. I think right now he's 6'1" and listed at 210 as of last year. Well, Tennessee brings in Indiana's strength and conditioning coach, and they're already talking about the amount of weight guys have put on. And it's like, well, if Perlotti keeps his speed but puts on 20 pounds, and we're talking 6'1", 230 coming off the edge, that's pretty solid. Yeah. And so it's exciting to hear that might be something. So when it comes to blitzes, is it just every play we're blitzing? Because Tennessee fans have kind of seen that when not Shiano, oh my goodness, Chavis was here during Tennessee's national championship era in the 90s. It was a lot of blitz on first and second down and then drop into coverage for third down. Tim Banks did that a lot last year. It got him fired where first and second down, you'd get teams in 3rd and 15, 3rd and 20, and then drop everyone in coverage, rush 3, and then quarterbacks are too good for that now. There would be someone open in a soft spot in the zone and go. So, is the blitz going to be situational? Is it going to be every play there's potential for blitz? It just depends on what the offense shows. Like, how does that work?
There's one thing, Knowles, again, like we talked about this, it's going to be situational. Like, he's not going to run a play. And this is one thing that maybe would encourage fans is it's not an ego play. Like, if he thinks first down, he should never blitz. That's not the way he'll behave. He'll look at the formation. He'll look at the tendencies. He'll watch the tape. He may adjust that. What I will tell you, and it's funny because you said the exact opposite of, I don't even know the last DC that was with you guys, but you said he got fired because he didn't blitz on third downs. My experience at Duke, we blitzed all day long on third down.
Okay.
To the point where if you don't have stout defensive backs, it can be seen as a little bit risky.
Right.
But if you have good linebackers and people coming off the edge, it's a great thing. We would run all out blitzes, all man coverage all the time. And that's just kind of his DNA. You think about like what the NFL's become now of like being aggressive on 4th and 2. He had that methodology 10 years ago. And I watched him do it at Ohio State and Penn State too. So I would say with blitz like that, there's risk, but there's also great reward. So I guess we'll see how it pans out.
Right. And so, when it comes to, and I specifically told you I would ask this because this was infuriating everyone last year, but you get in a 3rd and 5. How far off the line are the defensive backs? Because last year, again, Tim Banks got him fired, but 3rd and 5, 3rd and short, you'd have essentially they're showing cover 4. With how far the corners are off the line. And it literally just, you would watch the flats open up, the 5-yard curl wide open. It's like, why? I'm not saying you have to press, but at least show not cover 4. Like why are we in a cover 4 shell? Like, why are we worried about a deep ball here if all they need is 4 yards to get this first down? So is Knowles going to do that?
No. We were always, I was just thinking to myself, like, we were always feet on the line, right? So That's one of the things about a DB for him, like whether we're running a shell cover 3 or an all-out blitz, right? It was always very key on third down to not give, let's say, corner lines up 8 yards off the ball on a 3rd and 5. Like, come on, man, we're running a curl, we're running a comeback route all day long.
Right.
It was always to show either press or, you can run cover 3, cover 2, 5 yards off the ball and just stay flat-footed, right? So those aren't things that I envision Knowles doing. Now, defensive coordinators can't control what DBs do. So if DBs bust coverage, it is what it is. But
right.
That's definitely not something he ever preached, and nor anything we ever did at Duke.
No, that makes sense. So to kind of put all of this into a bow, what gives this defense the ability to be as elite as it has been? I'm not taking away from what he did because I don't care what conference you play in. To have the numbers that the 2024 Ohio State defense did is insane. And they still went up against good teams. Michigan was not bad that year. I think they played Oregon that year. That was a very good defense, and they were good throughout. Tennessee learned firsthand how good that defense was when they went up to Ohio State and got their teeth kicked in. But what gives this defense the ability to be as elite as it has been everywhere it's been, regardless of resource pool and talent acquisition, things like that. Because you look at the progression and everywhere, year three, I mean, I think OK State topped out at ninth in the country. Ohio State was obviously number one. I want to say Duke was, I think at its peak with Knowles was top
I think we
20,
yeah, I think we
top
broke top
15.
20. Yeah, I think we broke top 20 my senior year, which is a
Yeah.
bummer. Our offense wasn't very good, but no need to throw shade on today's podcast.
Yeah, no, but still, it's like you're talking about that progression. Like Penn State, it was at 1 year, but you, it's been good everywhere, and so that
Yeah.
is naturally exciting for Tennessee fans. But put all this in a bow. What makes it elite, and what about that should excite Tennessee fans as they look ahead for this year?
Yeah, I think you're getting a guy who, I mean, he's moved, right? So if you think about it, like he's moved from Ohio State, obviously the Penn State stuff happened with the head coach. I think if there's one thing I can tell you about Jim Knowles, he's a competitor. Like he's going to be ramped up and amped up to be in the SEC, to be for UT. He has one of his defensive back coaches there, Derek Jones, who I also know very well. He actually was my defensive back coach. He's got familiar faces around. And I think that the defense is fluid, right, Alec? It's a 4-2-5, having that star position, having the linebacker talent you guys have, like being able to work talent up and down off the line and in the back end of the defense is going to fare super well in his schemes. Yeah, I don't know. I think the way we could wrap a bow on it would just be you're gonna have a highly motivated guy with a highly talented team, and somebody who's gonna come in and not gonna have their ego get in the way of what they want to call. He's gonna put that aside and just run a scheme that he thinks will work, right? And I think that's a big reason why you go watch what Ohio State did in 2024 it was remarkable. I don't see any reason why you couldn't do that again with UT.
No, I love that answer. I mean, I think I've been high on what this defense could be this year for a while now. Just when everyone else has gotten there, but from the get-go, I was like, look at what he's brought in. You got a player at every level. You've got a coach at every level, because you don't technically have Penn State's linebacker coach, but that's what his background is linebackers. So you have a coach and a player at every level to help implement this, and you've got the talent. So it's just the biggest question is going to be, can the defensive line stay healthy? And then who is our starting star position is Quay Moss. He's a Kansas State transfer. He slightly undersized, but plays bigger than he is. I want to say that I said undersized because I want to say y'all are not too far off in listed height and weight. He might be 6 foot tall, but he's he was one of the first transfers that Knowles and the staff went and got. It was like portal open, Quay Moss signed. So it's clearly Knowles saw something in him that he liked. Which is exciting. But depth is going to be a question for sure, and it's going to be interesting to see where things go. But as we kind of wrap up this conversation, what is your favorite Jim Knowles story that you have that kind of speaks to who he is as a coach and as a person?
Yeah, gosh, it's so. I think I was sharing this. We were talking last night briefly, but I have a story that I feel like people would appreciate. It's probably not the right story to tell, but I'll tell it, which is we traveled out to Northwestern my senior year. And at the time there was a call like a pre-workout or like a caffeine ban on the team. So they wanted us just like taking the supplements that they took. And it wasn't anything crazy. It was just like caffeine. Right. And so I bring a bag of pre-workout with me because I love to have caffeine before the game, which I'm sure most college players do. I end up drinking the bag of this caffeine in like those mini Gatorades, right, Alex? So like this big. And what I didn't realize was I accidentally doubled the dose. So I was supposed to give it to some teammates and I doubled the dose. And so the first drive against Northwestern that year, it's smoking hot. It's in the middle of summer. I want to say it's like August or September. This 6'5", 280-pound tight end runs a post route on me. And I cannot move. I feel like I'm in like quicksand. I'm just like, my heart's palpitating. I'm like, made a very bad choice. He throws a post route. He scores a touchdown on me. His first play of the game. It ended up being one of the better games I ever played. That first drive was absolutely abysmal. But I came off on the sidelines. Jim Knowles threw a clipboard at me and said, "What the heck is wrong with you?" I ended up taking my helmet off, projectile vomiting on the field to get it out. He looks back on me because I was supposed to be on punt, and he's literally losing his mind. He had this high-pitched scream that I could never forget. He would say my name, Corbin, just like that. Go back out, ended up getting a sack the next drive, came back off. He gave me a hug and said he forgave me. That's one of my favorite stories of Jim Knowles, of like, he's going to hold you to a high standard. There's a high bar for the guy, but he's also he really is a player's coach. I think the fans will see that this year on the sidelines, but man, he wants to win, which I always appreciated being a player myself. So hopefully that story, some people can appreciate a bit better than the one I shared with you last night.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, you said something about him smoking cigars, and if he can smoke a cigar on every third Saturday in October, which is the tradition for the winning team, which is the game against Alabama, that Tennessee fans are going to be very happy. But there is a lot of reason to be excited about this upcoming season for Tennessee fans. What Jim Knowles brings in, not just on the defensive side, but as I mentioned earlier, he set up a plan to kick Tennessee's offense's face in and leave no question as to which unit was better on the field. Now, little did Tennessee fans know at the time, we didn't realize that Ohio State was going to go on the tear that they did, go and make Oregon look like an FCS team the following week, and go on and ease their way into a national championship. I mean, Notre Dame literally just had to run their quarterback every play to have any success. But there's so much reason to be excited, and what Knowles can bring to the offensive side of the field as well to help Heupel and Halsley and make the adjustments for this year, and how he would attack it and things like that is, I think, it's just going to be a very exciting year. People are down for obvious reasons. Tennessee starting a new quarterback, going to be either a redshirt or a true freshman, which has its own concerns and things like that. But it's going to be really exciting. So, Corbin, really appreciate your time. And this was, the nerd in me loved everything about this. I hope everyone listening got the same joy out of it. And suck it, Logan. You should have been on the podcast. You would have enjoyed it. But, Corbin, anything else you're like, hey, we need to make sure Tennessee fans know this before we wrap?
No, I can't. Nothing off the cuff, man. I appreciate you having me on. Yeah, I love what you guys are doing, and thanks for letting me tune in. This was like the best work break of all time. 10 years later, blast from the past. So appreciate you guys. I guess I got to say go Vols, because now I'm going to be a Vols guy with Knowles there. Let's do it.
No, hey, if you haven't been to Neyland yet, you definitely need to make your way out there. Even for one of Furman or whoever the other cupcake game is to start the year, but it again, no shade being thrown at Duke, but there is quite a difference in stadiums there.
Oh yeah, I got to tell you, I'm waiting to ask for that favor from Jim himself. So maybe today I'll remind me to shoot a text to the guy. I would love. I hear the night games and that stadium are unlike anything that anyone's ever seen. So I gotta make the trip. What are we, man? We're like 2-3 hours away. So maybe we'll drive. Gotta go watch a game.
100%. If you do, I think a lot of people think that Kentucky, that's the November 7th is the set dark mode game. So it'll be a whole production, and it's really fun. So definitely worth cashing in on any favors you can get. So, but appreciate you all listening, and hope you enjoyed this special episode, and we'll catch you next time. See ya.